Hello everybody, my name is Erica and welcome back to my channel, Ginger Books. So today I'm bringing you one of our, I believe it's the first one of 2020, which is a book review. And we're going to review A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So Court of Thorns and Roses takes place in a fantasy world where fairies are real, and there are 7 courts to the fairy world, with one higher court that rules over them as the 7th and highest court. So they're broken down into spring, autumn, summer, winter, day, night, and then the high ruling one, which I am blanking on the name and I'll put down here when I edit. Feyre is our main character, and we follow her as you kind of learn about her backstory in the beginning, as her father was this merchant, ship merchant, who was a very wealthy merchant, smart businessman, and she lived with her her younger sister and her older sister, and her parents. The raw end of fate, her mother died, and her dad, in trying to save his debt that his family had accumulated, he put all of his business adventures in a couple of ships to sail to a world. They ended up not making it, and he lost everything. And at the beginning of the story, Feyre is out hunting and kind of reliving this as they now live in a cottage in a very poor village. From what I understand, is about 50 years ago when the blight happened and attacked the courts. That's also when they casted out the mortals humans from the fairy world courts and lived on the outskirts of believe the spring court is mostly where she is at. And that's where your story begins, where Feyre ends up being taken in by the High Lord of the Spring Court and is sentenced to live after killing one of their own, and that's where the adventure begins. Let's get into what I really liked about this book. Or I should say, before we begin, there was a lot of mixed reviews of this book and even just the series alone of A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I decided to give it a try after watching the very entertaining Read with Cindy reviews on these books. So I already kind of knew what was going to happen, but not a lot, and what she kind of felt about them, which I believe she liked them, but she had a problem with, I think, the third one. But anyways, we're not going to get into that. And if you want to watch the videos, obviously go check her channel out and go check them out. But that's how I got into these books and decided to give them a try, because, some people liked them, some people didn't, but I was like, you know what? I really want to get into the fairy world and, the fairy fantasy books. So, because I always kind of had an admiration and kind of intrigued by it because of the Shadowhunter Chronicles and the fairies in that world. Or the fae in that world. Overall, I ended up really, really liking the book. Gave it a 5 out of 5. Even though I did have its problems, mainly a good chunk of the first half of the book, but it definitely picked up a lot at the end, and wow. So let's get into what I liked about the book. So the first one was the characters. I think Feyre is I say this a lot to all my female characters, but she is such a badass. She is a girl who was dealt the wrong hand, and keeping her promise to her mother, she pretty much carried her whole family on her shoulders and learned how to hunt, learned how to do things, even with being practically illiterate, and figured it out on her own and tried to get her family to survive. And even when she ends up in the Spring Court, she is still fighting until she finally breaks down her walls and realizes that maybe the fairy people are not so bad. And that's when Tamlin walks in, because he is the High Lord of the Spring Court. And he, by the descriptions and by some of the fan art on Pinterest, yeah, he's a hottie. Anyways, that dynamic, and what I kind of liked about these characters and what drew me into them is the love interest between Tamlin and Feyre is that, in books, it's usually the female main character tearing down the walls of and breaking into the heart, the ice around the male character's heart. But this was the opposite, I felt, because Tamlin, you learn in the book that the blight or the curse that happened to him 50 years ago, well, the reason why he sent out that wolf, which I don't want to give any too much away because you just need to read the book and you'll find out closer to the end of the book of what the blight or the curse is. But looking for somebody to love him and breaking down Feyre's walls just even from the get-go. Oh my word. I just loved that love interest, loved it so, so much. And that's what definitely drew me into the story more as the plot untwist. Which segueing into the second thing I really loved about the book that definitely gets me into a book is the plot. At first, I will have to say it was very, very slow at the beginning, and I almost wanted to DNF the book because it was not holding my attention. Halfway through the book, it started picking up with major plot twists and just how the characters had to react to it. Oh my word. And it just spiraled from there and kept me interested all the way up to the climax of the book and then even after. I loved it. And now I completely understand, and this is just a recommendation if you read this book, is stick through and pay attention to the slow beginning because it makes sense why it was so drawn out and slow towards the end. Just saying. So I thank you, Sarah J. Maas, for doing that because otherwise I probably would have DNF'd the book if it kept going slow or not even understanding. And maybe that wasn't really your intent. I don't know. But that's what I kind of got from it. So that's what I really loved about the book. As I said, the negative part, until I understood, was just the beginning of it. And also, I didn't feel so attached to the characters at the beginning. Feyre was really hard to get attached to until she finally, Tamlin was able to kind of break down her walls a little bit. So that's kind of like the negative side of it, but it did not change my view on the 5 out of 5 star rating once I started getting into the book. I mean, after the halfway point and it started picking up, I could not put the book down, even though it did take me almost a month to finish it. So I was just so scared I would have to DNF it. But I pushed through it and actually ended up really enjoying it. So I gave it a 5 out of 5. I definitely want to get the next book because a character was introduced, which was the Lord of the Night Court. His name is, I believe, Rhysand? Yeah. And I really want to see how this goes because he's a very interesting character. And he definitely, I don't know. Because, like, my heart shipping right now is Tamlin and Feyre. And then Rhysand comes in and I'm like, ooh, you're very mysterious. And I'm very drawn to mysterious kind of asshole characters. So this is going to get interesting. But anyway, so again, this book was 5 out of 5 stars. Loved the characters, they grew on me. Loved the plot twists. Oh my goodness. And definitely was a great introduction into the fairy type fantasy books. And I cannot wait to continue on and also to read more fairy themed books. I am really loving this new me of wanting to try different genres, even in the fantasy and like supernatural, paranormal, and just fantasy fiction type books that I never thought I would ever read because they never fascinated me. But hey, new year, new me. So watching. As I said, I want to improve on these reviews, so let me know down in the comments below what you would think what you liked about it, and also what would you like to see more in my reviews, and kind of help me critique my reviews a little bit. Again, thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe and hit that bell notification. I post weekend vlogs on Mondays and fun-filled videos like this on Thursdays. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!